It's 2026 and the world is in such a mess. Investors actually want Nintendo to raise the price of the Switch 2, according to Nintendo Life. We're gonna take a look at this. We're gonna talk about these rumored price hikes. Apparently, investors want Nintendo to jack up the price of the Switch 2, and this is after the Switch 2 had a pretty lackluster first holiday season. Like, this thing's not taking off like gangbusters. They just released, I guess, a couple of killer apps for it. I know Pokopia is doing really well. Tamagotchi Life, Tamagotchi. I almost said Tamagotchi Life. Tamagotchi Life is doing pretty well. Other than that, I can't really think of any reasons why you absolutely positively have a Switch 2, and I have a Switch 2. I don't play it that much, although I will tell you, I did make a huge mistake. I bought Vampire Crawlers for the original Switch, and compared to the Steam version, it is slow as hell. The load times are just ridiculous, but apparently it plays really good on the Switch 2. So there we go. I should have bought the Switch 2 version. So we're going to talk about this price hike, what is behind it, why investors are pushing Nintendo to raise the price. Apparently they're selling the console at a loss. That used to be the norm, but now we got to make money on the consoles. Plus, RAM shortages and chip shortages and this oil crisis and all of this stuff. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. And if you want more, if you want to help support the channel, you want to be a reefer, go out to more.clownfishtv.com. That's more.clownfishtv.com. And you'll get more. You'll get paywalled episodes, some deep dives, some articles, things we do not have here on YouTube. And also, if you're afraid of missing an episode, go out to the audio version of Clownfish TV. You can subscribe to the RSS feed, so that would be Apple and Spotify and iHeartRadio and all that stuff. So let's look at this article first, and then we'll go out to IGN. The world is in such a mess. Investors actually want Nintendo to raise the price of the Switch 2. All right, if you like keeping up to date on Nintendo's share price, you'll no doubt be aware it's been down lately. As of the time of this writing, it's at 7,500 yen, which I don't know what that translates to into US dollars, but it's not great. Doesn't take a genius to figure out why it's dropping. With AI data centers hogging all of the necessary components that fuel the latest tech, it's become much, much more expensive for other companies to try to get a hold of any of it. In addition, the mess surrounding the Strait of Hormuz has only exacerbated things by putting further pressure on global trade. And the gas prices are terrible. You'd think they'd want to lower the cost of the Switch. Just hear me out. Because people aren't going to be traveling as much. If they're not going to be traveling as much, if you give them a decent game console at a decent price, maybe they'll just sit their fat asses in their house and play video games and not go anywhere. I'm just saying. Now's a good time to, hold the line, I guess, if you can. Things are looking pretty bleak. So bleak, in fact, that Nintendo's investors are actually hoping that the company will raise the price of the Switch 2 ASAP. Yeah, that's a decision, isn't it? Right now, the Switch 2 is being sold at a loss at $450, and so investors are getting mighty concerned that this is proving to be incredibly unprofitable for Nintendo in light of current circumstances. Yeah, the PS5 Pro's like almost $1,000. Sony's already buckled under pressure to raise prices, and people aren't buying new consoles. They're not. Why would you? Why would you buy a new console now when they've never been more expensive? I'm just saying. On the flip side, other investors are concerned that raising the price of the Switch 2 will impact the customer demand, thus potentially hurting Nintendo's share price further. I agree with those investors. Right now, what you got to do is get some good games out there and move as many Switches as possible, and then over the lifetime of the console, you'll make up that money. Now, Nintendo's flush with cash. Like, they're not in danger of going broke at all. They've never been in danger of going broke. But Nintendo really likes money, and their investors really like money. But they're a pretty stable company, weirdly enough. I mean, especially with the video game industry being in the position it's in right now, Nintendo's probably the most stable video game company out there. But the Switch 2 is not a huge success. All eyes were on Nintendo's financial release this Friday. The company has previously stated that a price hike is possible, though it seems keen to weather some of the early hardships in the Switch 2's lifespan to keep the console flourish, to help the console flourish in the long run. Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. So this is coming from IGN. They said last year in June it launched at $449.99. In Japan, it is 50,000 yen, about 318 US dollars. Wow, that's a region locked version though. So if you speak Japanese and you want to play nothing but Japanese games, it's cheaper to buy a Japanese console. How much of a loss the Switch 2 is sold at isn't clear, although one analyst told Bloomberg that even a $50 to $100 price increase would mean the console was made less of a burden rather than truly profitable. So is it costing Nintendo like $1,000 a pop to make one of these? I mean, this is kind of what happened with the PS3. If I remember correctly, a PS3 was sold at a loss, if I remember this correctly, to get Blu-ray into as many hands as possible. While hardware makers have frequently sold consoles at a loss in the past, opting to instead make their money back on software and accessories, Nintendo has ditched this strategy for the original Switch following the bruising losses of the Wii U era. But it then apparently changed course to ensure the hugely successful Switch was followed by another hit console at a price point that would convince customers to upgrade. Give them a window to buy it. Introductory price. Like if you buy your Switch 2 within the first 6 months, it's going to cost you $450. If you wait, $550. Like going once, going twice. That's how you do it. The question of whether Nintendo will increase Switch 2's cost comes now amid a continued decline in the company's share price over the past year from record highs seen ahead of the Switch 2's arrival. Yes, people thought this was literally going to be the second coming of the Switch, and you looked at the game lineup, and you looked at the fact that it didn't seem like they had much of a plan other than make a slightly better Switch. And people are like, yeah, do we need to upgrade? I mean, really? Because it's literally just the same thing, just better graphics. You know, it doesn't really do a whole lot that the original Switch didn't do. That's why I don't play it very much. The Switch 2 is actually in the living room. The kids play it. They play it more than I do because they play like Pocopia and stuff. I've played it like 3 times. I play the Switch 1 because I have it in my bedroom, and I also have like a mini PC with all kinds of retro games on it, my vintage consoles, and then I can take the Switch with me. And that's the only reason that I play it. And it's like my Switch. It used to be the family Switch, but now it's kind of like my Switch. So that's part of the reason I don't play it. But I'm sorry, Donkey Kong's okay. Mario Kart's okay. There hasn't really been anything that's been a killer app from my point of view. Nintendo has hinted that it may need to increase the Switch 2's price at some point after previously upping the cost of Switch 2 accessories, introducing alternative higher pricing for physical Switch 2 games, and even giving a price hike to the aging Switch 1. That was a weird decision too. Like they actually jacked the price of the Switch 1. And that's not a good sign. I mean, I get that this stuff goes up in price. I get it. But this damn console is like 7 years old. That'd be like, you know what? Hey, it's like 1992, I guess, or 93. And the NES, yeah, we know it's been out for a very long time and everybody has moved on to another console at this point. But we're going to jack the price like $50. Right? I guess they kind of sort of did. They had the top loading one. It was cheaper though. I think it was like, I want to say it was like $50. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. But I would love to get one of those. I've never had a top loading NES. My father-in-law, that would be Geeky's dad, he had one. He used to actually refurbish consoles. And I love those things. I think that's how it should have been, like right out of the gate. But it looked too much like Atari, and we couldn't have that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. They're even talking about the Christmas sales being lackluster. They said the console sold well in Japan, albeit with international sales over Christmas that were somewhat slower than hoped. Somewhat. It was the worst Christmas for video game console sales since the 90s. Like, I'm sorry. It was pretty bad. It was not great. Nintendo itself has hinted that it may need to increase the price at some point. The article concludes Nintendo must now strike a delicate balance. Any Switch 2 price rise to appease shareholders risks upsetting consumers and slowing Switch 2's rollout at what is still an early phase of its life cycle. Yeah, I think this console is going to face a lot of uphill challenges because gamers are soured on a lot of, I mean, I wouldn't consider Nintendo AAA gaming, but the predatory nature of the video game industry right now. And for a lot of people, what they have works, or they're going to PC or something, you know. So it's going to be a tough sell to people to raise it, especially when you didn't sell a whole lot of them last year. You know, if you're going to raise it, be like, fine, we're going to raise it, but we're going to give you another digital game or something. Make it seem like more of a value to the consumer, or be like, we're raising it because we got a new Zelda coming out next week. You know, that new Smash Brothers, guys, that's how we're going to justify the cost of the Switch 2 going up. I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.